All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 12th meeting of the Springs Municipal Advisory Council. We're really excited to be here this evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:31, and Vice Chair Perrott, could you do roll call, please?
Sure. So Councilmember Lombard.
Present.
Councilmember Reyes. We heard she'll be in later. Councilmember Alcaraz.
Present.
Councilmember Winders.
Present.
Councilmember Hardiman.
Present.
And then I'm here and Maite's here.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to read a poem, and the history of this poem is it was written by Luis Valdez from Teatro Campesino, and I used to put this on the back of the program for my kids at school when they graduated. And I heard it the other day. I was at the Los 100 dinner, or lunch, or breakfast. I'm not sure. It was some kind of meal, and it was a big meeting. And they read this poem, and it just reminded me of just how beautiful I think it is. So, you are my other me. It's called En Lakesh. You are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. And in Spanish is, tú eres mi otro yo. Si te hago daño a ti, me hago daño a mí mismo. Si te amo y te respeto, me amo a mí, me respeto a mí mismo también. So that's Luis Valdez. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. So I'd like to just be sure that we get participation from all our council members tonight. And I'd also like to thank KSVY for always broadcasting and tech support, and Lynn Marie, the awesome minute taker. She should get like a gold star for that. And then of course our interpreter Juan, who's here with us and does a fabulous job for us to make this meeting accessible to all. So if we could get a motion to approve the minutes of the September 14th, 2022 meeting, and a motion in a second, unless there's changes.
All motion.
I'll second.
Sorry, who was the second?
I think we tied.
Sounded like it. Rochambeau. Sorry, I'm Boys and Girls Club.
I think I'm. So was it Celeste? Okay, Celeste. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. So I think we've added another new element besides my poetry reading. We've added a student voice or a youth voice of the Valley. So we have, I think it's on video today though, correct? Yes. So we have Marisol Alvarez, who is a Sonoma Valley High School student, and we just wanted to give some opportunity to our youth to be heard and just to create some space for that. So I think we have a video we're going to share for you that Marisol created for us. Thank you, Karina.
Hello, my name is Marisol Alvarez Diaz. I'm happy to be here today to talk about my personal experience as a Sonoma Valley High School student. In the many years at my high school, I unfortunately had to fight for people of color against my own administration. I organized projects to bring cultural awareness to my school. I organized, with the help of my AVID teacher, a big panel that hosted members from La Luz to 10,000 Degrees, a local scholarship program, to talk to my AVID class, who are first generation low-income students, about the college application process. These panelists were people of color who understood the struggle of being a first gen and had valuable stories about navigating college. The AVID panel was intended to promote higher education for people of color. However, when I brought this idea up to my principal, she repeatedly said, just read a book about the college application process, and was saying that no one would want to show up to these events. At that moment, I realized the administration of Sonoma Valley High School was against people of color and did not care about our own journey navigating through college. However, I did not give up, and I talked to the vice principal who allowed me to host these events with my avid teacher. I had to stand up against my own administration to have these valuable resources be accessible for first generation students. I'm working on a mural with Raices Collective, a organization that helps promote and empower communities through art and culture. I organized a Latinx mural to promote inclusivity for students of color, specifically those who feel culturally isolated in the school environment and who are not motivated to systematically pursue higher education. The Latinx figures will represent a symbol of self-determination and vast possibilities. This mural should spark communal conversation about social justice and the Latinx impactful contributions and ultimately the fight for local equity, as well as advocating for cultural immersion in the school environment. Without having any cultural expression in our art, our food, and our communities at school, these students, and including myself, do not feel safe at school. Population is predominantly Latinx, however, my school has not given cultural immersion a priority. Although these injustices are seen in my school, there are many young students of color fighting for representation, like selling aguas frescas, having piñatas in our carnivals, and multiple clubs like Mecha and Spanish Society bringing cultural community. These students of color are resilient and empowered by the common struggle for equity against the administration belief and not prioritizing cultural immersion in a cultural environment that is needed for these students of color to feel safe and secure, to walk the halls every day, and to be academically present. Thank you so much for hearing my story and letting my voice be heard.
That's some statement. Thanks. Will you extend our gratitude to Marisol for her comments? Thank you. Okay, we'll go to public comment. A reminder that we'll see how many folks have a comment to make, and then we'll make a determination on the time. If we can see a show of hands of who's interested in making a public comment, and then we will queue you all up.
Thank you, Chair Turi. We'd also like to make the announcement in Spanish. Para los miembros de la comunidad que desean hacer un comentario en español, por favor de utilizar la aplicación de levantar mano en su aplicación de Zoom. O si están llamando, pueden oprimir estrella 9 y serán identificados para hacer un comentario en español. I don't see raised hands at this time, Chair Turi.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to community event announcements. Looks like Karina, you have a couple. Not sure if other folks do, but we'll start with that. Oh, we have is that a community announcement or is that a public comment?
I believe it's a community event announcement.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Shall we start with the public?
Yes, and how much time would you like to allocate?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Francis, if you are able to hear us, if you can please unmute, state your name for the public record and begin your comment, and you will have 2 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Frances Kiles. I'm a program assistant at Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership. I'm actually filling in today for Jessica Grace Gallagher, who's our Sonoma County manager in the Volunteer Services Department. And I am here to announce a project that we have in our Volunteer Services Department going from this September through May 2023. And the project is a climate impact wildfire prevention project, where the goal is to engage community members in doing vegetation removal work to make the community more fire safe. And so we are actively recruiting people who'd be interested in engaging in this volunteer work, as well as any organizations, schools, or groups who'd be interested in partnering with us on potential events in the future. And I can also drop information for how people can see more information on our website if there's a way that I could do that.
You can send it to me, Francis, and I can share with the Springs MAC, and it will be available in the public record.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Francis, could you just please say your email or some contact for you? And I'm part of a fire safe council and would love to get in contact.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. My email is fkiles
Mhm.
at cvnl.org.
cvnl.org. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Okay,
Yeah.
great. I'll email you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Okay, Karina, would you like to make your announcements?
Sure, if there are no other council announcements, I will go ahead. Tomorrow is our last charla of 2022, and our office is evaluating in what capacity charla, sorry, that was a 2-minute timer. In what capacity charla could return in 2023. But we'd like to invite the community to participate. These charlas have been going on for the last 2 years. Initially, they started as a response to COVID to provide our monolingual Spanish-speaking community the opportunity to receive information on updates with testing and vaccines, resources, financial assistance, and we slowly expanded to other topics of interest like emergency preparedness and mental health being the two most talked about topics at our charla. So tomorrow we will be closing with an update on COVID, where we are 2 years after the pandemic, what resources continue to be available at the county and in Sonoma Valley. We will be addressing mental health and suicide prevention awareness, as we know that is a huge topic amongst our community, especially our youth. So please spread the word. If you're able to share our flyer, I've shared it through our distribution list. It is also on Charla Comunitaria Facebook page. So please, and I will make it in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking community that might be watching either on Zoom or Facebook. Les invitamos a participar en la charla comunitaria que se estará llevando a cabo el día de mañana, jueves 13 de octubre a las 6 de la tarde a través de Zoom. Es la última charla del 2022. Estaremos recibiendo una actualización sobre dónde nos encontramos con COVID después de 2 años de pandemia, recursos que siguen disponibles a través del condado y en el Valle de Sonoma. También estaremos abordando temas sobre salud mental y prevención ante suicidio. Por favor, si pueden, participen. Es la última charla del 2022 y estamos analizando en qué capacidad regresaría la charla en el 2023. Después de que hemos estado al aire 2 años en respuesta a COVID. So again, Charla Comunitaria tomorrow at 6 o'clock via Zoom and Facebook Live on Charla Comunitaria Sonoma. Thank you, Chair Turi. The other update is we know that there's been an anticipated in our community for a community plaza meeting, and that is finally coming forward. We just heard yesterday from the project developer. There will be 2 listening sessions. One will be all in English, one will be all in Spanish. This will be happening November 8th and November 10th, respectively. We don't have details on the location and time, but please stay tuned because you might get information at the next MAC meeting or through our office at Supervisor Gorin's office. And then there will be a 3rd meeting where the developer will present a proposal with 3 different options based on community input. So it is important for our community to participate in these meetings, provide input, provide your sentiment, give any suggestions, recommendations, what you'd like to see as a community plaza. So please, November 8th, mark your calendars for the English meeting, November 10th for the Spanish meeting. Locations and times to be confirmed. So we wanted to share this with your council and our community that is listening to this meeting. Thank you very much.
So Karina, when you say developer, does that mean the Matsons or their
So that's
project
group
manager?
is the developer, yes.
So that has been decided and agreed upon.
Correct.
Thank you.
I have a quick question just to sort of piggyback on Hannah's. will it be them, or do we know if it are going to be their representatives, or will it be the Matsons themselves, or do we know yet?
Chair Turi has a little update, and we can go into more detail. This is, remember, it's community event announcements, but it will be brought up in her chair update, and I can answer those questions.
Thank you. Sorry, I always have questions. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I may need your help with that, Karina. So,
Absolutely. I just want to make sure we stay within the Brown Act. So
absolutely, absolutely. Hold on one second. In full transparency, I am working off of 2 devices tonight instead of my normal system, so I am not.
Chair Turi, if you want to start your chair update, I can answer those questions in that update. It's just
Okay.
for formality. If you're
Okay, all
ready.
right. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. All right. Working as fast as I can here. Hold on. Sorry, y'all, talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Karina, I looked at the dates. Our MAC is on November 9th, so the 8th is before, and the Spanish is on the 10th is after.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, all right, I'm back. So my chair update. So October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Also, congratulations to the October birthdays. Woo! And
Through the chair, Maite, your birthday is in October, so
it is, and this, it's like just decided to celebrate birthdays on the month is my birthday, and I want the least amount of attention ever. So yes, my birthday is this month. So October has traditionally always been my favorite month, and then one year some terrible things happened in October, and it's like I'm not sure that it's my favorite month anymore, but anyway, here we are. So update on SVCAC. I went to my first meeting, and there was a lot of conversation about the Kenwood site. And that's actually that's part of this conversation for us, is there will be a joint meeting on November 30th. I don't have a lot of detail about this because it was my first meeting and I was just trying to get orientated to what was going on, but there's a proposed project at the Kenwood Ranch, and it would be a joint meeting between the North Valley MAC, the SVCAC, and our council, so that we can get information on what's proposed. We felt it was important that the Springs MAC be included in this conversation, as well as whatever happens there will have an effect on us. So we're looking forward to that opportunity on November 30th. The next part of this that was a joint meeting. Oh, at the October 26th SVCAC meeting, I will not be in attendance. So if someone would like to go from our group to make a comment on what happened in this meeting, you would go in and do a public comment about and report on our Springs MAC meeting. So if there's somebody who's interested in doing that, you would not be a panelist. You would go in, make a comment, and exit.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I just want to add that at the October 26th meeting, SVCAC is actually going to be hearing the SDC project. So it's actually a little bit more involved. And we understand that your council has been, opinionated about the project and the future of this project and development. So if your council does want to send a representative, since Chair Turi will not be there, you cannot sit on the commission, but yes, you can absolutely participate. You can either read your previously submitted letter, or you can have a different statement that you want to bring forward, or you can just make a comment, as long as you're representing what the council previously stated and submitted to the to Permit Sonoma and the project manager.
Thank you for that, Karina. Yes, I had asked about sending an alternative and that was not acceptable. So I appreciate you adding in that about the letter. So an update on the Springs Plaza meeting. As we heard, there'll be meetings this fall. And I'd like to suggest at this point that we create an ad hoc that could attend these meetings so that we have some representation at this particular event, because we know how important it is to all of us. Hi, Maria Carmen, welcome. So I'm wondering what you think about that. We can take some public comment on it as well.
So if I may, Chair Turi, this is where I can answer the questions that Celeste and Hannah were bringing up.
Thank you.
This public meeting is will be facilitated by a facilitator that the developer has hired. The county has been involved in meetings, and I do see Supervisor Gorin has connected, and I welcome her to correct me if I'm providing information that is inaccurate. But the county has been working with the developer, and they are working with a facilitator for these public meetings. So it will be a facilitator that will be at the English meeting, and then they will also provide the Spanish meeting facilitator on the 10th of November. Again, these are meetings to hear the community's input and opinions and recommendations, what they'd like to see, as a community plaza. It is not about reviewing a proposal, because that will come after these listening sessions. So again, sometime mid-January is what we heard. The developer will once again have a public meeting. They will present a proposal with 3 different options based on the community input.
Is there, Hannah, is that a question?
Yeah, didn't we have, or Susan, or didn't the county have some money set aside that Susan had gathered for this, for the plaza?
Yes, we do. And if the community is not supportive of the involvement of Ken Matson, then we have some money set aside. It probably is not enough to complete a project, depending on what the county would like to see. And there's a lot involved, because as you might imagine, this is historic land and uses around it. There's utilities running underneath it. There may be presence of Native Americans buried underground, so they have to be consulted. Gas lines, electric lines, maybe plumes or hazardous materials underneath of it. As soon as you start digging, especially for piles for a podium parking, it means you're going to go down and you don't even know what you're going to discover. So whether we move forward with a community plaza or whether we do it jointly, there's a lot of involvement here. And as you are all too familiar, there is quite a slope from Highway 12 going down to Boys Boulevard, and which would limit whatever we want to put on a community plaza if we were going to go it alone. It's just not going to be a flat piece of land. It'll have to have some topography. So, and depending on what we want to develop, it would eliminate 22 to 25 parking spaces. And I think that when parking is at such a premium, especially at that location for potential businesses in the Center Plaza building or elsewhere, that's a consideration.
Can I just get a little clarity on what you just
So
said?
can I
Yeah,
interrupt for
sorry.
a second? Because now it's starting to turn into an agenda item and it's not an agenda item. So the ask is if we want to have an ad hoc committee to meet, to go to these meetings. So I'm seeing some heads nod yes. I'm wondering who might be interested in being on that ad hoc committee.
So Chair Turi, what needs to happen is if there is interest from your council to create an ad hoc, all you need is a yes, there's interest. You need to agendize a special meeting, because you won't be able to create an ad hoc before the public meeting. So you will need
When's the first one?
November 8th, and your meeting is not until November 9th. So the next step would be to host a special meeting with only one item, which is specifically to create an ad hoc for the plaza.
And would we need to create two because there's a Spanish speaking meeting, or are we planning on sending the same group?
That's really up to you if you want to create two separate ad hocs or one ad hoc with 2 or 3 members.
Okay.
You know, a couple of them who are bilingual and can attend both meetings.
Okay. So there is an interest. So we will have to have a special meeting before we'll have to find a date, and we need to get a quorum there. So stay tuned for that. Okay.
Thank you, Maite, for appropriately interrupting me. You are absolutely right.
Supervisor Gorin, I don't like to have to
Check
do
one.
it, but you know, I have been schooled on the Brown Act several times now, and it's starting to sink in.
You are the god.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on. Thank you all. Supervisor Gorin, it's your turn for an update.
Hi, well, I'm here. I sort of just did give you an update, and I really need to thank Karina and a whole crew of team for working with Mattson and Dan Crowley on this agreement to get to an agreement. And it's been over a year that we've had the involvement of General Services and legal counsel and Permit Sonoma to try to figure out how we're going to move forward with multiple different parts of this. I have really worked hard on impressing the architect and the whole team of Mattson Lefevre that they need to make progress on the projects that they've been working on, the landing structures property across the street, the Boys Food Market, and of course, Moon Mountain. So I'm hopeful that the construction fencing around Moon Mountain is coming down soon. It's in the fall now, and so they could start planting in the next month and have most of the exterior done that would allow them to take down the construction fencing so that we could actually see what the projects are and not just a mess of construction. The landing structures property has been permitted. They can dig for footings and move on the urban cargo storage containers for residents and potential businesses on the site. And those storage containers are ready and on a storage site ready to move on to the site. And they are, which is pretty interesting, they are inspected and approved by the state, not the county. The county approves the land use plan and the fire inspections and the permitting for electrical, plumbing, and hookups and all of that kind of thing. They are making progress on the Boys Food Market project. I believe they have gone through design review and submitting comments to comply with the changes for that. And it's going to be a multi-phase project, so it's not going to be completed all at the same time. So that's the progress. The good news is, yay, we have some progress on those 3 projects, and yay, we have some progress on the community plaza that has now, I think, well, it's decades that redevelopment started talking about a community plaza at this location. And this particular proposal moving forward has taken over a year or 2 to move it forward. So more to come. Thank you so much for Karina for working so closely with our real estate division and to move that forward and be the interface with Dan Crowley and the county on that. And I know Michelle Gervais, who's the facilitator. She has been very active as a facilitator in multiple projects in Santa Rosa and elsewhere. So I have confidence in her. Part of her team is a Latina who's very active also in facilitation. So we're excited about that and anxious to hear from the community about what you all want to see on the community plaza, not necessarily the projects surrounding the plaza. But maybe there'll be an opportunity to comment on that as well. And from there, they will take the comments from those 2 meetings and come up with some alternatives to present to the community in January. So enough said about that. I know that a focus of this Springs MAC especially has been on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the board went through almost 2 days of training with professional trainers on these subjects, and really giving us some sense of what a toolkit might look like, what an equity lens might look like in evaluating subject matter in policy matters coming before the board. And because we don't have infinite resources, they are now training the department heads and core individuals in each of the departments on the toolkit and how to apply them. And so when the subject matters come before the board in the board agenda, they will already have had that lens analyzed and incorporated into the potential policy. I've asked my team to work on lists of outreach, lists of individuals and groups for community outreach, because that's part of the process. And we are going to try to say, okay, here might be some individuals who want to comment on roads. Thank you to the ad hoc, appreciate that. And here, some folks in the community want to comment on health and human services and a number of different issues. So we will work hard on improving the outreach for the county. I alienated the CAO because I said, you have no idea how to outreach to Sonoma Valley. Oh, you're so negative. Well, it's true, they don't. So that is coming forward. The good news is we are also moving forward and evaluating the Nelson building on Lomita for potential lease for community offices. And we're sort of coming up with some designs and who from Health and Human Services and other functions that might be located in those offices, probably half of the building. I know that there are community organizations who are also interested in having satellite offices or offices maybe in the other half of the building. There's a great opportunity for us to have this community hub at that location. It's still in negotiation stage, but it's far enough along that I can say, yeah, we are moving forward on this. And this is a big yahoo from me and so many other folks. What will come forward at the county as we evaluate this is there will be proposals coming before the board for a new county center at the administration site. And it's going to be different. It's going to be big buildings going up and housing on the site, as well as other services that might be incorporated on the site. And I don't ever expect to move into that building. We know how long construction takes. But love to hear from you about, do you ever go to the county center? If so, what functions do you access? Could we have some of those functions at Sonoma Valley Hub? Or how would you access services online or in person on the county site? We'll be doing a lot of outreach on that, but that is coming forward. Trying to think if there's anything else coming forward. There probably is. Oh, I know. The living wage ordinance is coming forward next week on the board agenda. And I've been briefed by the team, including Marty Bennett, on that. This has been something that I've been working on essentially since I've been elected. I worked with Marty and Jack Buckhorn long before I was elected as a supervisor on some of these issues. So if you have an interest in living wage and some of the issues regarding that, then stay tuned and go on. I believe the board agenda is online now. Finally, since you just talked about the Sonoma Developmental Center, I've been in close communication with our representative on the Planning Commission, Greg Carr. We're starting to go through the specific plan to figure out where we can take it, where he could get support from the other commissioners. And we were able to move additional Planning Commission meetings onto the schedule. and move the date back that this plan and EIR would come before the board to December 16th. It was planned for a closed session talking about labor issues or other closed session items. And now we're going to have an all day or most of the day conversation regarding the STC. I think that's probably enough for an update for all of you, and I'm available to answer questions. Hannah.
Supervisor Gorin.
Oh,
Good, Hannah.
thanks. What is the deadline for the board to make a decision on SDC?
By the end of the year, probably we will be making a decision at that meeting on December 16th.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions from the council, we'll take public comment.
Members of the public who wish to make a comment or question, please use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if you have called in. I don't see raised hands.
Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Supervisor Gorin.
Thank you all very much.
All right, we're going on to our COVID update. So this is an informational update from Sonoma County Health Services and the Sonoma Valley Community Health Center. I believe we have Dr. Mace here, and Mari Carmen will also provide an update on the capacity at Sonoma Valley Health Center. I must say that I went there today and they did an awesome job. So congratulations, Mari Carmen. You guys do provide an excellent service to the community. So Dr. Mace is here and we'll hear from her. Thank you.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for having me. Great to see you, Supervisor Gorin, and everyone. I do have slides. Shall I bring them up myself, or did you want to share them?
Dr. Mace, I think I will share them so
Perfect.
that we can see both English and Spanish on screen. If you can just bear with me for a second, I want to make sure I have them ready.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Ready when you're ready.
Okay. Can you do it as a whole screen or as a presentation?
I cannot, because then we cannot see the Spanish slides. So this
Oh,
is,
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I
yeah.
see what you're saying. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go ahead. So I guess I'm going to really give first sort of a global and local impacts of the pandemic overall. I'm going to talk about the current status of COVID-19 here in Sonoma County and vaccination progress and outcomes to date. So what has happened so far globally? We have had more than 6.5 million deaths worldwide, and that's probably an underestimate because many countries are not reporting fully on their deaths because they don't capture all the deaths the way the United States does. And we have had over 1 million deaths in the United States to date since the pandemic started. More people have died, just to put it in perspective, more people have died from COVID-19 than from AIDS or the 1918 flu pandemic. And the US has observed the largest drop in life expectancy since World War II. And as we all know, the thing that we've really been trying to address is a disproportionate number of deaths amongst people of color. In Sonoma County, as you can see, well, California first, we've had 11.3 million cases and close to 100,000 deaths. In Sonoma County, we've had about 108,000 cases and 518 deaths. Next slide, please, if you can scroll up. Thank you. The good news is Sonoma County has done really well in comparison to the country and the state. We have the 9th highest vaccination rate in the state, and we've had 21% fewer cases per 100,000 individuals than California overall, and 53% fewer deaths per 100K, again, 100,000 people, than California overall. And that puts us in a really great, a much better place in terms of the country, because California itself has really done well during the pandemic, largely due to the measures put in place as well as the vaccination rates. But of course, as I mentioned, we have really seen a lot of inequities, health disparities that have come to the surface, things that have existed for years with other illnesses, other infectious diseases or non-communicable diseases, even diabetes, hypertension. And we've seen inequitable infection risks. Our communities of color, American Indian, Alaskan Native, Pacific Islander, Latinx, and Black communities have experienced the highest rates of COVID-19 during this past 2.5 years for many reasons. One is that many of the people in these groups have been the essential workers, the ones that weren't able to shelter in place, were not able to protect themselves and their families. People who live in the lowest quartile of the Healthy Places Index, who don't have access to health care or readily available ability to isolate, families that live in groups of 20, 30 family members together, farm workers. These have been the groups that have been really impacted. So Latinx residents have accounted for 43% of all cases, although they represent 29% of the population. Next slide, please. So how do we gauge the impacts of that disproportionate infection rates with COVID? As compared, we look at life expectancy, and as compared to prior to the pandemic 2017 to 19, life expectancy overall in Sonoma County decreased by 1.7 years for all residents. Whereas you can see that in the Latinx community, there was a 2.2-year decrease compared to the white non-Hispanic population, where there was a 1.4-year decrease. Again, a disproportionate impact and just a very, very important measure, life expectancy. There have also been some gender disparities, with males being disproportionately impacted, with a 2.3-year decrease in life expectancy compared to females that had a 0.9-year decrease in life expectancy. And part of this may be that there were more essential workers that were male that were exposed during the time of the pandemic before vaccination. Next slide, please. So if you look at countrywide trends from this year, January 1st of this year to present, we are definitely at a low. We're doing well compared to several months ago. At this time, as of October 10th, 2022, we're at 4.4 new cases per 100,000 residents per day, with a 6.3% overall test positivity and a 5% test positivity in the lowest quartile, HPI quartile. That's the Healthy Places Index that takes into account numerous factors to determine the wellness of a community. 16 people are currently hospitalized, which is an all-time low. We've been in the 30s pretty much for many months. And 94 people still have died from COVID since January 1st, 2022. Next slide, please. Black residents are currently experiencing the highest case rates at 14 new cases per 100,000, followed by white residents at 7 new cases per 100,000 residents. Next slide, please. If you take a look at geography, taking population size into account, the highest case rates are currently in Cloverdale, with approximately 10 new cases per 100,000 residents per day. But as you can see, every city in Sonoma County is seeing a decrease in case rates, some kind of up and down, some plateauing a bit. But on the whole, if you look at from several months ago, definitely a downward trend for Sonoma County. Next slide, please. And we've done well in terms of Bay Area and California case rates. We have actually been lower than the overall California case rate and lower than the Bay Area, but now equalizing with the Bay Area. So case rates have steadily been coming down throughout the state and throughout the Bay Area. Next slide, please. We have been performing what we call wastewater surveillance. We've been doing that in Santa Rosa, Petaluma, and soon Cloverdale will also be on board. It's a free service that comes to us through a joint program with Emory University and Stanford University that it contracts a company called Verily that provides the wastewater sampling for us. So what does that mean? If you're living in Santa Rosa, every household in Santa Rosa, the wastewater goes to a plant for decontamination and reprocessing, that kind of thing. So we're able to do surveillance of the wastewater for fecal matter, which a lot of times you'll find viruses and bacteria in the wastewater through fecal matter. So what we're doing is we're testing the wastewater in these cities. And what that can help us do is follow trends of different viruses like COVID, like Mpox or monkeypox, like polio, and even different bacteria as well. So we have been following that. It won't tell us what the case rate is in the city or how many people have COVID. What will tell us is a trend over time. And I know it's hard to look at these graphs because they're quite small, but trends in the viral concentration of COVID-19 also show an overall decreasing transmission in Santa Rosa and Petaluma. And soon we'll have data for Cloverdale as well. So I'm happy to answer more questions. It's a little bit complicated, but I'll leave it at that. Oh, the other thing that wastewater allows us to do is track different variants through the wastewater. Public health does continue to monitor for new variants of COVID-19. New subvariants of Omicron continue to emerge, especially worldwide. And we'll probably be seeing some of the new subvariants because, as you know, people travel from all over the world here to the United States. So likely we will be seeing some more. But for now, BA.5 and descendants of the BA.5 variant of Omicron do account for the majority of variants being observed. So moving on to vaccination status, one of the reasons that we've been so successful in limiting our case rates, hospitalizations, and deaths is because we're highly vaccinated as a county. And vaccination is hugely helpful in preventing COVID-19 bad outcomes. We do know that just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean you're not going to get COVID. Plenty of vaccinated people actually do get COVID-19, but they don't get seriously ill, hospitalized, and do not have a great risk of death or other negative outcomes from COVID-19. So we know that those people who are unvaccinated in Sonoma County are 2 times more likely to be infected with the virus, 3 times more likely to be hospitalized, and about 13 times more likely to die of COVID-19 complications. More reason why we really want to get everybody vaccinated. And we've done really well. As you can see in the 75 plus age group, 100% of people really have either 1 or 2 shots. The majority 1. Thank you for that, Karina. If you look at our let's just say, really, if you look at our over 25 population, the majority of people are either fully vaccinated, that's the green bars, or partially, meaning that they have at least 1 dose, that's the blue bars. So we still have a little ways to go with our younger kids. As you can see, the 6-month-old to 4-year-old group has the longest way to go, and we're really trying to get that word out. But as you can imagine, a lot of parents have questions and are hesitant, and we still say that it's best to take your child to the pediatrician to get them vaccinated for COVID and ask questions and have them answered. We're doing better in the 5 to 11 age group, but still we have a ways to go. About half of that population is either fully, the majority, or partially vaccinated. And in our 12, just want to go back to 12 to 24, we actually have about 75%, which is good. Next slide, please. So in terms of booster dose administration, this is not the new bivalent booster. This is just looking at the initial boosters. We're doing well. We have from 59% to 72%, depending on the HPI quartile with the booster dose. Still, there's a little disparity there between the HPI 1 group and the HPI 4 group. And as you can see, we still have a disparity between different race and ethnic groups, with white non-Hispanic being at 74% and our Hispanic Latinx population being at 51%. So we're still trying to work on that, and that is slowly creeping up as well. But 66% of currently eligible 5+ year-olds have received a booster, and 80% of eligible adults age 50+ have received their booster dose. I think this is my last slide, the next slide. As you know, the new bivalent booster is now available for anyone that is eligible. And I believe that's still 12 and over at this point, but we're very close to getting our kids approved as well. And anybody who got their last booster dose 2 months prior is now eligible to get the bivalent booster. Why get the bivalent booster? Because it is specific against Omicron. It provides more immunity against Omicron, and it will be very helpful if there is another surge. So I advise everybody to get your bivalent booster if you're eligible at this time. Great, I'll stop there, and I'm very happy to take questions.
Thank you, Dr. Mace. I just got mine today. So we'll take.
How are you feeling?
Right now I'm okay, but I can feel that maybe that's not going to be the case in a few hours, but I'm good right now. So I'm wondering if there are any questions from the panel at this point, and then we'll go to public comment. Iris?
I was wondering why there's no monitoring of the waste facility plant in Sonoma Valley. You said it's free, so that would be cool. I might as well ask everything. Do you have any idea of the percentage of COVID in the homeless population? And any idea of why the higher rate of deaths in Black people?
Yeah, thank you so much for those questions. The rates are definitely affected by the total population. So rates are going to be higher in groups that have less numbers.
Okay.
Simply because it's a ratio. And that might be one reason when we look at rates. Absolute deaths are much, much, much lower in all the populations that are less representative in Sonoma County. The other thing, if I can just say, with the boosters, let's see, what was your first question, Iris?
Waste. Why aren't we monitoring waste in Sonoma Valley?
Verily was willing to do 3 sites in Sonoma County, and we did query all the different wastewater facilities, and we only had uptake from 3 initially. We can expand the program, and we'll certainly look at Sonoma County to see if they're interested. We can ask them again.
Thank you. Oh, the unsheltered
population. Yeah, so there's been no outbreaks currently in the homeless facilities or shelters. So I think the rate is about the same as the general population at this time.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the council? Okay, we'll move to public comment.
Para los miembros de la comunidad que desean hacer un comentario en español o una pregunta para la doctora Mace, por favor de utilizar la aplicación de levantar mano u oprimir estrella 9 si ha llamado. I don't see any raised hands, Chair Turi.
Thank you so much. Any final comments? And also I wanted to give Mari Carmen the opportunity to say anything she'd like to say about the health center and their amazing work.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, okay. Good evening to everyone. I will be speaking on behalf of my my hat as staff from Sonoma Valley Community Health Center. Cheryl wasn't able to make it tonight. It's the same night as board meeting, but she did send these talking points. First of all, we would like to let the community know that we are no longer doing infant vaccines, which is the 6 months to the 4 years of age. We do know that currently Fox Health is the only one doing them at the Roseland shopping center in Santa Rosa. So we do have that information on our website, but by the end of September, we were having days that for infant vaccine clinics that nobody was coming. So we have that's why it was decided to put an end to those clinics. We are currently doing our COVID weekly COVID vaccine clinics on Wednesdays from 5 to 8 p.m., which is still happening right now. In the first couple of weeks after the bivalent was approved, we didn't have such an increase, but in the last 3 weeks, including today, we have had an increase. The majority of them being bivalent, and very short number being first doses and in pediatrics. There may be a possibility that Moderna and Pfizer are looking into making single vial doses, which means that eventually these will be available through a doctor's appointment. Currently, they are still come in vials where you can get up to 6 or 7 or 8 doses. But we will continue to provide vaccine clinics as long as they're needed on a month-to-month base. So hopefully by the end of next week, we will know if we will continue November, which is very likely, but we will be putting that on our vaccine calendar, which is found on our website, vaccine calendar. Just so you know that bivalent booster is only for 12 and older, and the monovalent, which is technically the original one, is for 5 to 11, which is only Pfizer because it's for pediatrics. And then the 12 to 17 bivalent is only Pfizer as well. And we are we started to do flu shots. We had 45 at Glen Ellen Fair this past weekend, and we will be hosting 2 community flu shot clinics at the Vintage House drive-through from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Friday the 14th and Friday the 21st. And we also had one at SOS, where we also saw about 25 individuals there. And we are doing both high dose and regular dose, and children, which are no preservatives, and then the regular one with preservatives, pardon me. Yeah, and we just based on the current flu rates in New York, they're and the changes in social distancing and masking policies, there is an anticipation that there will be a very active year of flu. So get your flu shots and get your boosters, and we appreciate everybody's patience when they come to get their vaccinations. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Can you please clarify? I missed the hours of the flu shot clinic drive-through at Vintage House.
10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Friday the 14th.
10 through 12. I'm sorry.
10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
to 12. Thank you.
Yeah, 10 a.m. to noon.
Got it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yes. And we potentially might be doing other flu shot clinics, but for now, those are the ones that are scheduled. And Karina has our information. If anybody has any questions, we have our community sbchc.org email. And another thing that we're currently doing also is it's going to be open enrollment for Cover California, which means that it's time to update your Medi-Cal if you're a mixed household. And if you have Cover California, it will be time to make a renewal. It's better to do an active renewal because otherwise it will make a passive renewal with your current information. So active renewals are highly recommended. And I will provide Karina the information so she can share on the MAC Facebook page and share with the members and community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mari Carmen. We need to go. Are there comments or from the council? I need to go back out to public comment as well. Okay. Is there any public comment on the addition on Mari Carmen's or Dr. Mace's?
I do see one raised hand at this time.
Thank you. 2
And
minutes.
1 minute? Okay.
2.
Mario? Oh, 2 minutes, sorry. Mario, you can unmute, state your name and make your comment, please.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Mario. My name is Mario. So, yeah, I just wanted to comment. I have a specific question for Mari Carmen. I know they tried to do a fairly decent job here in the Valley, which I really appreciate. I was just curious to know how. I mean, I hear that they're doing a lot of. There's continue to do work providing access to people who may need to get vaccinated, either for COVID or the flu. Just was curious to know what sort of outreach do they do for people and to being workers, and if they have any sort of data or numbers on how much work they do. I know they sort of have a partnership with Líderes Campesinas, but I'm not sure. I'm just it's a population that oftentimes is just because of their hours and a lot of those workers don't have insurance. They don't have a lot of them work for contratistas, so they depend tremendously on services that the health center should be providing for them. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria, for your question. Actually, we, in addition to your mention of our collaboration with Líderes Campesinas, we also partner with vintners and growers. And actually, during the summer, we had, I think during the summer, and then after the new booster came out, we've had groups of workers that are coming in after work. Usually when they come in, they will come in like in a groups of 5 or 10 right after work. Many actually come, they're like, oh, where do you live? Like they live in Napa or Santa Rosa, but they like work here and they're driving through. So, you know, we of course do Facebook. We do a lot of people call, a lot of word of mouth is what we also depend on right now. We need to go back into doing paper flyering again. We do have our newsletter that it also includes the different churches, different community organizations to help us spread the word. You know, we really depend on the community organizations as well as community members. And also, you know, we're one of our partners is La Luz. So they will refer people if they have any questions. They will always give us our private extension. People have questions. So we have been doing that kind of outreach, but I think paper, we really need to go to paper flyering again. That's one thing that I do recognize. And right now we're in process, now that things have kind of slowed down, we're process and revisiting that specific outreach and starting, you know, to do events again. So as we went to the Vintage Festival, to Glenelg Fair, we've also provided information to our partners that are doing other health fairs, such as the binational health fairs, different areas. And, you know, people always reaching on Facebook or their personal cell phones too. We thank the county also, you know, for spreading the word. And so that's, I think, a lot of where our outreach focuses on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mari Carmen. Are there any
Thank
final
you.
comments from the council? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mace. Thank you, Mari Carmen. We appreciate your time and your energy and everything you've done to keep us healthy. Thank you. All right. Our next item is Sonoma County Transit. So Brian Albee, the Transit Systems Manager for Sonoma County Transit, This is the informational presentation on Sonoma County Transit, SCT, bus service in Sonoma Valley, specifically the Springs. We're considering partnering with STC and a nonprofit to increase public transit awareness. And we'll take public comment after the presentation. And there's Brian. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hi,
Nice to
good
see you.
evening.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Karina, are you going to run the presentation or should I?
If you want to share it and go at your pace, you're more than welcome to. And I'm prepared to share if you need me to.
Okay, I'll do that. How's that? Okay, good. Well, thanks for inviting me to come speak to your group tonight. I'm Brian Albee, County Transit Manager. Wanted to just give you an update on how Sonoma County Transit is doing, kind of as we recover from the effects of the pandemic. A little bit about Sonoma County Transit. We're 42 years old. We're a division of the Transportation and Public Works Department and General Services. Now, we have 9 local routes that provide local service in all the cities, with the exception of Santa Rosa and Petaluma, which have their own services. We've provided intercity service on our Route 30 to Sonoma for probably 40 years now, and local services on Route 32 a little less than that. But both services have been around for many years. We have 10 intercity routes that provide service into downtown Santa Rosa or downtown Petaluma. From Cloverdale, Healdsburg, Windsor into Santa Rosa, Rohnert Park, Sebastopol, Petaluma, all the cities connect into Santa Rosa and Petaluma, where transfers to Golden Gate Transit, local services, and SMART can be made at the Petaluma station. In Sonoma Valley, the oldest route is our Route 30, and this is just kind of the map cut in half that we really are going to talk here about the service from Kenwood to Sonoma and the Springs area. As you can see, we have a lot of service in Kenwood, Glen Ellen, the Springs area, and into Sonoma. The red line is the Route 30. The Route 34, which is kind of abbreviated route, is the red line. The daily service operates daily now. We used to have a separate, prior to COVID, have a separate weekday and Saturday service. We've now combined them. So 7 days a week, we have the same level of service from Sonoma into Santa Rosa. The service ends in Santa Rosa after it serves the Transit Mall, the Mendocino Avenue corridor. Route terminus is in Cloverdale. On the Sonoma end, the terminus is at the Sonoma Plaza. We have 8 eastbound trips, and we have 9 westbound trips. So it's again, same operating daily schedule. The Route 32, which operates in Sonoma Valley and in the city of Sonoma, operates from a little after 7 in the morning till about 4:09 in the afternoon. We have a lot of high school students now that take the bus for their school commute that really starts in the Springs area and terminates, of course, at the Sonoma Valley High School in Sonoma. Since the city and the county initiated the Fare Free program a few years back, ridership has more than doubled, really has quadrupled, I think, on the Route 32 from college students or from high school students, and represents, I think, the largest single fare type paid on the system. The Route 34 is really what the Route 32 buses do in the morning to get out to Sonoma. So rather than just having them deadhead from Santa Rosa, we provide 2 trips, leaving Santa Rosa Transit Mall 6:45 in the morning And then in the afternoon, you can see the return trip in the afternoon. And then the Route 40, this is a route that has had several changes over the years. We've kind of since the pandemic have re-looked at it. We have provided connections to Golden Gate Transit, to SMART, our own services in Petaluma, and all the services coming from Petaluma link up directly with the Route 30. So if you're coming from Petaluma and need to get into the valley area, you get on the 40 bus and it turns into the 30 and continues on into the valley and ultimately into Santa Rosa. But the ridership has far exceeded our pre-pandemic ridership, and this is a very good sign. And what I did here is I just took our September ridership for the most recent month, and you can see the impact of the pandemic. In 2018, we were kind of recovering from fires and other things that happened in the county, and the Sonoma Valley routes were just a little under 10,000. In 2019, we came back. This was I think the first year, yes, the first year of the fare free program on Route 32, and you can see the ridership that year more than doubled, just doubled, I guess, on Route 32 to 4,916. This is just for September only. But you can see that we went from 9,000, roughly 10,000 in 2018 to 12,300 in 2019. And we were seeing this system-wide that after several years of kind of decreased ridership, effects of the wildfires and floods and other things that happened in the county, we were kind of on our way back. And then in March of 2020, as we all know, the pandemic hit. And you can see what happened in September of 2020. After several months of being in the pandemic, we were down to 4,000 riders. It was much less in March, April, and May of that year. September 21, things are coming back, 6,500 roughly, and you can see how each of the routes performed in September of just last month, September of last year. We were up to 9,387 riders. This represents about 76% of the pre-pandemic level of service or ridership, I should say, from September 2019, and really Sonoma Valley leads the system as a whole, which I believe is about 65% of the pre-pandemic level of ridership. When we look at who's riding Sonoma County Transit by the different routes, the Route 30, the intercity route, is predominantly adults who ride that route. This also includes JC students, which we have a fair amount that ride to the JC, but you can see a whopping 69% of the ridership on Route 30 is adult riders. Route 32, as I mentioned earlier, is predominantly youth riders, student riders, which this was caused by the Fare Free program, which is supported by the city and the county, which has been very successful. You can see it's followed then by adult riders, and then of course seniors and disabled. Route 34 is a lot of student riders on it as well. 131 edging out adult riders at 124. And then Route 40, as I mentioned, the service that goes back and forth between the Sonoma Plaza and Petaluma is predominantly adult riders, and we're seeing more commuters connecting to our services and to the SMART train in Petaluma. And so when you look at all four routes that serve the Sonoma Valley, 52% are adults, but then roughly 20% are seniors and 19% are students. Very close. As I mentioned, the Fare Free program, this started in Sebastopol several years back, and then it kind of expanded to all the local routes. And the Route 32 is, of course, one of them, and we've had great success, primarily with student ridership there. This is a program that the board just renewed a week ago Tuesday, and I appreciate Supervisor Gordon's support for that. And this is something that Hopefully we'll do some more fare-free programs on the intercity routes, but right now all the local routes on Sonoma County Transit countywide are fare-free. The board has also supported college student and veterans ride since 2015. All college students that ride Sonoma County Transit, regardless which college they attend, and it's not dependent on a trip to a college. Any student currently attending makes any transit trip, it is free. This is a joint program supported by the county and the two colleges, SRJC and SSU. And then the county supports veterans free rides solely itself. We have a few other projects in the valley, working with Karina, and we got a sample bicycle rack that I think there's interest from the Springs MAC to establish more bicycle parking. And what we can do as a transit system, we can put these up at our transit stops. We can't put them up other places you may want them in the valley, but certainly at bus stops. We can put up bicycle racks, and I think we provided a report to Karina a while back of the potential locations kind of throughout the valley through the Route 32 service area where bicycle racks might work. So I look forward to working with your committee in the future as we consider this endeavor, and just see how this one goes, and if the racks will be painted. I think there was discussion of that, as well as this is just the rack out of the box in plain white. We also are installing real-time passenger information system. This is information that comes off our Next Bus system, which we have just totally updated, significant cost. We've got 10 of these signs. We have 10 more coming. The first one in the valley went up at the Sonoma Plaza, but we are looking at other locations throughout the valley to put these real-time signs up. We also are looking to put up more sim seats. We recently did a project of, I think most of all the stops in Oakmont now have these installed. Working with Supervisor Gorn on this project, we have ordered some more of these, and we're looking to do some improvements out in the valley where we have room and right away at our bus stops to install these. We're also looking for new locations for bus stop shelters. I think there are few old shelters in the valley that we're looking at to put in the new kind of the modern look shelters. This is one that just went up in Roner Park a couple of weeks ago. So with that, that kind of that was a little bit about Sonoma County Transit. In the future, we're looking primarily on expanding Route 30 and Route 32. And Route 30, we have a few more infield trips to add back in to get to our pre-pandemic level of service. But beyond that, we're looking at express service from Sonoma Valley on weekdays during the commute periods. And this would be a bus that would serve all the stops that it would from that serves from Sonoma Plaza through the Springs area, but then get on Highway 12 and just go directly into Santa Rosa. That we want to reduce the commute time for the cities furthest from Santa Rosa. We're also looking to do this in Petaluma to Santa Rosa, from Monterey to Santa Rosa, and from Cloverdale to Santa Rosa. So that is kind of a priority we have. Maybe in 1 or 2 years, we'll get started on that. And then the Route 32, we're looking to expand service till 8 o'clock at night. And this requires more drivers and probably the same amount of buses, but it would require a driver switch probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. As all transit systems in the Bay Area, in the state, and really the country, we're all looking for drivers. We're all short on drivers. As you can understand, the competition for employees is pretty tough, and we've had some people leave, and just something that we're all contending with. So it's not so much resources, although resources are always something we are concerned about. It's mainly the employees and the folks driving the bus that we are on the lookout for. And I know my colleagues at Santa Rosa and Petaluma and the other systems are all kind of in the same boat with that. But with that, certainly answer your questions or take any comments you might have.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's a pleasure to work with you. I appreciate all of the effort and all the time that you put into this. And we do have an update on the bicycle racks. So Karina, if you'll stick around for that, for the update during the agenda, maybe Karina can get that information to you. So thank you for that. I'll see if there's any comment or question from council, and then we'll move to public comment. Hannah.
You pretty much answered all my questions. Excellent report, so thank you. But I just want to pass on what I hear most from people is that they really want more of those tolar, I guess they're called shelters. People want more covered. Yes. So it sounds like you're working on it, but that, it just seems sometimes pretty undignified when someone's out in the weather, as nice as our weather tends to be. Thank you.
Right. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Iris.
Thank you. One question that I always have is, why can't there be smaller buses that could make more stops in the Valley area? There's a lot of area to be covered. It's not a whole lot of mileage, but for it to be comfortable and convenient for people, more stops makes more sense. There are things, people have appointments at on the hour and usually quarter hours and things like that. And to have to get to it 45 minutes early is not desirable. So I do wonder about smaller buses, and I think that would make it easier to have them circle around faster with more with an increased schedule. And those are my questions. And I really enjoyed your presentation. It's great to hear about it, and the improvements that you're making. The toll shelters seem very good, and the bicycle racks, I think, are going to be an improvement too. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more comments or questions? All right, we'll go to public comment.
Okay, I see one raised hand. Members of the public who wish to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if you called in. Si desea hacer un comentario en español, también lo puede hacer. Puede utilizar la aplicación de levantar mano o oprimir *9. Mario, Chair Turi, I want to confirm the time.
2 minutes, thank you.
Thank you. Mario, go ahead.
Hello, Mario Castillo here. Thank you so much for your presentation. I was just curious if you have numbers in terms of what's the percentage of usage by the Latinx community, Latinos. I'm particularly interested because my sense is that they don't use it much. That is not friendly. That is not something that people feel comfortable riding. Somehow there is. While in our native places of origin, back in Mexico, especially rural areas, public transportation, buses is a common way of our people of transportation. And yet here, everyone seems to feel the need to own a car. And I think that this is due to the fact that we are sort of pushed to constantly be on the move, having to move from one job to the next, and having to basically we don't have the time to spend 4 hours waiting for the next stop, waiting for the next bus. So that's just my sense. I mean, you're the expert. I was just curious to know what's your thought on that. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the question. Yeah, I appreciate the question. We don't have really any surveys that we've taken other than just by fare type, the senior, the adult, the disabled riders. We will be taking surveys probably in about a year as part of another project we're working on. And maybe we'll ask some questions regarding the ethnicity. But that's something we don't typically gather without the specialized survey. Your comment about the travel time, this is something we always hear, and this is a concern that we have. We have just limited resources, and this is a very large county, and we're spending all the money we have on transit. And as I mentioned earlier, is that we're looking in the future for more infield trips on Route 30 and also express bus service. And I really think the express bus service would be a benefit, especially for the folks in the valley, to get a commute into Santa Rosa, access to other services, and a trip travel time that is comparable to a auto. So I appreciate your comments. It's always something we're working on, and it's something that we always have in mind. But we do have limitations, but we also have some ideas in the future to better the service.
Thank you. Okay. Any final comments from anyone? All right. Thank you, Brian. We appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I might move the break to this time. If Juan, would you like to take a break now? Otherwise, it would be a break after the next item. I'm not sure what he's saying. Do it now. I'm going to take that as a yes. All right. We're going to have a 10-minute break. And I'll see you back here at, in 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Chair Terry,
Yes.
Councilmember Reyes had to disconnect to drive to her house, but will be connecting again.
Okay, thank you. So we will get started with our next item, which is the pavement preservation program, priority roads list for the Springs region. The Springs MAC Roads Working Group members present suggested roads for 24-25 PPP inclusion from the Springs MAC for consideration and approval. The list will be submitted to Supervisor Gorin and Transportation and Public Works for inclusion in the 24-25 discussion. And I think that was Iris and Hannah, correct?
Yes, yes. I'm not sure that Hannah's back.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I could, I have some comments to make about doing it. I can understand people's hesitancy to take on this project. And it was more in some ways than I expected, and you know, and easier in others. Overall, it was a real eye-opener in terms of how the process works, and it led to a much greater understanding on my part of how this all works. I think Hannah would say the same thing also. I think it was really valuable in terms of learning, getting more into the way it functions. So next time it comes around, I'd recommend it to whoever's left here at that time.
Okay, so would you like to share, who will be sharing the results with us?
Is Karina, are you bringing up the
I'm happy to screen
PowerPoint,
share.
or Hannah?
I'm
Or are you bringing?
Either way works.
I'm
Karina's got it.
incompetent, so I'm not doing
You're not incompetent, Iris.
it. I am with PowerPoint though.
Okay,
I hit the
there
wall.
you go.
Okay. Well, it's the Pavement Preservation Program Roads Working Group Ad Hoc. The next slide, if you would, please. Hannah, you can bust in here any old time you want. The goals are the working group develops the list for consideration, and y'all can read this. Making reservation recommendations to the SMAC, and then the SMAC prioritizes the roads and takes a vote. We present the list to Supervisor Gorin, and then Supervisor Gorin submits the list to the
Public Works.
Public Works. Yes, thank you. I missed that. The map that proved the most useful for us was the fourth one down, the the third one down, paving project history map. And I think that's our next slide. Could you go there, please, Karina? Nope, not. Okay.
I think she went backwards, not forwards, or no?
Oh, yeah. Are we going? What is, oh,
Are you trying to go to the maps, Iris?
No, just the next slide.
the next slide.
The next slide doesn't show the link.
Okay, yeah, I
Okay.
was thinking that map was there. I'm sorry. Is there a way that you could click on that link and, no, don't do it, because you have to zoom in and stuff. It's really kind of a pain. Oh, okay. And it's a quick trip to the valley. And if you click on or zoom in a lot, and wait a minute, that's the paving history map. I'm sorry. It needs to be the
future projects, I thought, was the one that we
no,
liked.
not the
Oh.
future projects.
The conditions map, the current conditions?
The current conditions map, yeah.
That
Thanks.
that is shown in one of our slides. So
Right, and that's what I thought was next, but it's not. Okay, we can just keep on going.
Okay. Let me get back to you.
Sorry to mess you up.
Okay.
Okay, slide 4, I think would be fine. Okay.
So this is where you left off.
Yes. We worked from the list that Supervisor Goran's office has collected from constituent complaints and District 1 staff observations. We developed our own list. The Public Works website was helpful to us also. And our observations, we did a drive around actually to look at roads and develop our criteria, which is the next slide, I think. Okay. As you can see, we considered density and the number of dwellings on a particular road and the apparent number of residents, because we know that there's doubling up and sometimes even tripling up in some places. And the cars seem to be a tip-off. It also indicates how many people have to drive to work, I think, or get their kids to school. The road width was relative to the condition of the road. Is it wider? Are the lanes really nice and wide, and so you can avoid things like a pothole that you can see? Or is it so narrow that you really can't avoid it? And the congestion, number of traffic, the traffic amount and the parked cars. The next slide.
I'd like to say something really quickly. It's not on the page. I would just say that, you know, even as we did our analysis, we did not necessarily always agree, I think, on what was, you know, for example, I have a thought that we should not be prioritizing roads that are dead ends. I live on kind of like a dead end road. I live in some of the worst roads, I think, personally. Some of the worst roads. They were definitely on the Susan Goran's list. But because I live on a dead end, I know that there's a limited amount of traffic coming through my area. So it's just I guess, I don't know if you said this already, Iris, our roads in the Springs are horrible. There is a mini lake that occurs in a road by me on Mulberry when it rains. It is so hard to prioritize which are the worst ones, and you just kind of have to look. I mean, almost any road besides like Boys and Verano, I'm sorry, yeah, and some parts of Riverside need to be redone. So I just would like to say that this was a tough job, but yeah. Next slide.
I hadn't gone there yet, but yes.
Okay.
You'll see when the map comes up that shows the area of the Springs. It was tough. So yeah. Okay, this is the one I wanted. And if it was chosen to be in this scale because you could see most of the Springs. And as you can see, we have a lot of red ink, and that means 0 to 24% of the pavement for the pavement condition. It's very poor. It's if you could zero in more on the Springs, actually, in the core where more businesses are and things, you would see that it's almost entirely red. The yellow or the orange is as you can see, the 15 to 40, 25 to 49. The good is yellow, and the excellent is the 90 to 100%. What became very clear to us as we went through was that it's the through roads or the roads that appear to be through roads that get the most attention and are in the best shape. As you all know, Verano and Petaluma Avenue were redone this year, and they're really nice. And of course, if my understanding is correct, Highway 12 and Arnold Drive, you know, it's Highway 12, Sonoma Drive, or Sonoma Highway, and Arnold Drive, which is Highway 116, are Caltrans roads, and I believe that they are responsible for their upkeep, which is also why those roads are in a lot better shape. The next slide, please.
So this just shows some work that's going to happen in the years to come, just to explain why we didn't choose these roads, because I personally know that my first choice was going to be this stretch of Riverside from Petaluma to Verano, but luckily that is going to be fixed next year. So that's great.
As this is an amalgam of our of the roads on the list that Supervisor Gorin's office has compiled, and then our roads. These are all on the supervisor's list. And I can give reasons why we chose them. Bay on Verano to Grove is actually runs in front of the water district and where the market is there, and it gets a fair amount of use, local use for sure. Caídamonte, the whole of it is not in good shape. It is a through road. Hannah and I were also looking at what roads would be
Evacuated
important in evacuation, and Caídamonte certainly applies. There's a lot of roads that feed into that. This one was crazy. The intersection at Craig Avenue and Railroad. Craig Avenue from let's see, Riverside to Railroad was resurfaced, but the intersection wasn't. And that intersection gets traffic from four ways, and so it was one I wanted to have on the list here. Because it needs to be resurfaced so it doesn't break down too fast. We were also thinking about how fast the roads are going to break down. Los Banos is heavily used by parents and students, parents bringing their students generally to Altamira. It's not in very good shape. Siesta Way is also an evacuation road. There are the homes on that street are fairly close together and small in general. It does go up to the private road, where the private road is. Those folks have to take over. And Mountain Avenue, these are our ones that we added. Mountain Avenue is a long road, fairly narrow, much narrower as it goes up the mountain, a little wider as it comes down, but definitely another evacuation route. Railroad between Verano and Craig, because it really is not in good shape. It does get a lot of traffic. There are a lot of people down in the housing developments below Railroad, and there's a lot, there's a lot of coming and going over that road to get out to Verano and also to get kids to school. Vallejo Avenue.
You missed Sierra.
I'm sorry, Sierra. Oh God, Sierra. Hannah had not been over Sierra Drive.
It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And I also thought it was interesting that no one on Sierra had called or had made a complaint. So I just encourage everyone to complain to the county about the conditions of their roads. They deserve to hear from all of us. Lots of people seem to live over there. I saw lots of apartments. I didn't realize how heavily populated it was. So that's an important one.
It is heavily populated, and if you don't know exactly where it is basically the road that runs behind west of the fruit basket, and also Fish on the other end. So it gets people going to Fish. Also, it probably gets some locals who know that they can go from the highway, and make and go down into the areas off West Thompson, and then Vallejo Avenue between Highway 12 and Caídamonte. Oops, that should have been. I
did on the big map, but so
okay,
we go into
that's
each,
a blooper.
Yeah, we go into each one. So we already covered these all. So if you want to go to the very last one, we'll show Vallejo more accurately. Keep going, please. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There we go. There, oh, back one.
Oops. That
So
one.
Vallejo is another key street for the east side of Highway 12. It's especially rough near 12, but the whole way is rough. So if we want to get to our next, I know we've talked about a lot of streets, but if you can go to the next slide, please, Karina. We're only talking about, 2.1 miles when we add these all up.
And
So go ahead.
what we're asking is that this entire list is approved. What I realized, I imagine Hannah did too. The mileage on most of our roads is not great. The other thing that happens, and part of the reason why through roads are more prioritized, is that traffic studies are done for volume and on those roads. That is not done at all on any of our smaller roads in the Springs.
Yeah, there's no data. We tried to find that data. There is no data for our small little side streets. And we all know that people, one road like Lichtenberg, a ton of people go down Lichtenberg to get to the west side of Highway 12. But we just don't have that data. So.
And people, we don't have Highland on here, but it certainly could be. Highland is a road that people use as a way to get from when the highway's backed up. And I will admit, I live, just off Vallejo, and I do that. If the highway's really backed up, I do try and go slowly though. Anyway, okay, there it is. Hannah?
I have nothing to add besides our roads are in a sorry state. So we got to start somewhere, and hopefully we could get some of these taken care of in 24, 25.
I think the other comment we might want to make is that what we really observed is that people in more affluent areas are the ones that will call the supervisor or TPW, and people in the lower income areas do not. And the places with some of the worst roads are in the census tract that Fred Alabak will cite. It is 1503.05, and it runs along basically, it runs straight through the Springs on the west
side
or the east,
of 12.
The west side of 12, but the east side of
from like Boys Boulevard-ish area to up to
further up.
Flowery?
No, it starts lower. It would cover Sierra Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from maybe West Thompson up to Flowery?
Yeah.
My goodness, you guys have done a lot of work. Thank you. Holy smokes, that's impressive. You mentioned 2 roads that you thought should be included. Can you say why you didn't include them? I think
we have a limited amount that we can put on this list. District 1 only gets 7 miles per year.
Every other year.
Oh, every other year? Oh, so
Yeah.
we're only a portion of District 1.
Got it.
So.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is appalling. Hannah and I both talked. If we each took 2 darts and threw them at the map of the Springs, we could make, those choices would probably be valid also.
This is good. It's so bad. It's really bad.
And
sorry, we talked about this, Iris. One thing that makes me want to know is, I would love to know more about our finances as a county, because how is it this? I know we have a lot of miles. Here, and I know it's very expensive to fix them, but this is basic infrastructure that's just literally crumbling. And I'd like to learn more about, as houses have sold and property taxes have gone up, where is all this money going? Like, why did our roads not used to be like this and now they're like this? How did we, with fewer people and lower property taxes, maintain our roads? And now with more property taxes, we're not able to maintain our roads. It doesn't make sense to me.
Another thing I wonder about is we don't really have any, in a sense, in-house personnel to go and actually resurface just a small chunk of road to keep it from deteriorating so it doesn't affect the other parts of the road. And it seems, I mean, we do have people that come around and put, blacktop in egregious holes and try and take care of it that way, but it doesn't last long.
I'm
No,
going to go to, thank you both. I want to go to council questions because I know people have them. Celeste and then Joe.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. That is so unbelievably detailed. And I kind of wanted to piggyback in second on some of the points that you were making about sort of like what neighborhoods are getting repaved and what ones aren't, and sort of looking, at the affluence of some of those areas. So I'm on Johnson, so I'm off of Lichtenberg. And yes, Lichtenberg is the especially school morning quick cut shot to Altamira. If you're stuck on Highway 12, everybody hits Lichtenberg, right? And so it's interesting because there was a big repaving project done recently, Lichtenberg and a piece of Duchesne and then Gregor, which goes in front of La Luz, that was all completely repaved. But what was interesting as somebody who was trapped in her home while they were doing that because I couldn't get my car out, is it actually made Johnson worse. The process of Lichtenberg being repaved made the end of Johnson this really, really deep dip that floods horribly now. And then the rest of Johnson just it's practically a gravel driveway at this point. It's so bad. And they filled in potholes, but it's almost as if when the potholes get filled, it makes it worse because they either turn into a bump or they sink down really low into a bigger hole. And then I noticed the same thing happened with like Pine and North Side. So like they seem to be worse as well than before the repaving on Gregor and Lichtenberg. So I'm not a construction worker, and so I don't know the actual like how that happened. I just know that as someone who lives in this neighborhood, and that's where I take my walk every morning. I walk those streets and then I walk to Shane and up through Larson every single morning. And so I noticed that they are significantly worse since that repaving project. So something happened during the process of that project that impacted the little tiny neighboring streets. And so I don't know if we could reach out and sort of find out, is there a way to remedy that since they were negatively impacted in the repaving of the streets near them? Or would we have to sort of wait for another round of repaving funds? Because I definitely noticed a significant impact.
Thank you, Celeste. Joe?
I guess mine is kind of more a comment. My only thought is maybe especially, I live on First Ave, so I'm in that area with Calle Del Monte, Thompson, like I'm all in the middle of that. My only thought is maybe shortening the amounts that happen at a time. Like Celeste was saying, she wasn't able to get out of her home when that was happening. It is so inundated with cars. I mean, I sometimes don't have a place to park. I have neighbors with multiple cars. So if you're cutting off a huge stretch where people park on those roads, there's not going to be anywhere for them to go, or they're going to get stuck. So I think you have some great ideas. I think once again, actually step back. Thank y'all for that work, because that for sure was a ton of work. But maybe it's like looking at smaller stretches at a time, especially in those neighborhoods that are just jam-packed with narrow roads in between them.
So I'll get to Supervisor Gorn in a second. I'm wondering if in our recommendation, we could add those two things that have been stated here from Celeste and Joe, just as recommendations. I don't know how this process works, but that's my question. And then Supervisor Gorn.
Hi, everyone. Hannah and Iris, amazing work. Thank you so much. And this is the kind of work that our D1 team has done the past couple of paving cycles to be driving over all the roads in our district, not just in the Springs, and to try to prioritize those roads for repaving. And we come up with a long list. And then when Janice Thompson gets a hold of the list and actually costs it out, our list is just really shrunken down. One question is, can you do it in smaller patches? That means it's a lot more expensive. So what Janice does is say, you have a couple of these roads, let's put them together. That is a contract. And you can't just say, oh, this little patch and that little patch and that little patch. The mistake that we made was not including Los Baños when we repaved Boys Boulevard. And she said, oh, too bad, it's not in the contract, we can't do it. So it should have been done 6 years ago, but was not. I wouldn't, Karina, if you could send everybody a link to the TPW website on how roads are financed, as bad as the roads are, and as few of the miles as we have repaved, you might imagine that the previous Board of Supervisors, before I was elected, was the board that says our road system is our largest, greatest asset in Sonoma County, and we have not contributed a penny from the general fund to repave the roads. So we've made a commitment every single year to add funding from the general fund to all of the funds that comprise the roads funding. And we are the county that contributes a larger percentage of the general fund to the repaving of the roads than any other county. And that's appalling to you. We also have the largest number of roads in our county, one of the largest number of roads in our county than all the other counties. Certainly that's true of the counties in the Bay Area and the smallest and one of the smallest population. So it is as dire as the needs are. We're doing amazing things and stretching the funding as much as we can. And the other thing I want to leave you with is thank you to all of you who supported the reauthorization of Measure M. That was our transportation measure called Double D, because when the new formulas kick in 2024, we will have more funding in local roads, transit, bike lanes than in previous measures, because we are not funding SMART or the expansion of Highway 101. So we were able to shift that funding to what we really need locally. And so that was more information than you ever wanted to know. But I hear you. The roads are in terrible shape.
Thank you, Supervisor Gorin. If there is no other comment from the council, we'll move to public comment.
Well, I kind of have a question, I guess, for Supervisor Gorin. Karina told us that there was no list from TPW that what I would have found really useful for this project was getting a list from TPW saying, these are our top 5 or whatever, and then we could prioritize, because I think the way our local knowledge would have been best used is for all these roads that don't have traffic volume information, and we can provide that kind of like just knowledge, like, oh, there's always a traffic jam there. But that's personally what I thought would have been beneficial, is for us to partner with TPW, where they are the experts. They know what lengths are best for the budget for the the contracts they have to write. They could tell us what they're thinking of, and then we could help them prioritize. Just a comment.
And I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. The roads that they choose are based upon the recommendations of the roads crew.
Mm-hmm.
And often they pick very rural roads like Burndale and Ramal, saying those roads are in horrible condition. Yes, they are.
But no one's on them.
But very few people are on them except cyclists. And so we have really purposefully said we really want to bring the spending into the more urban areas and not repave those long expanses of Rummel Road. So that's why we're trying it out, and we would love to have recommendations from you about what worked, what didn't work, and how we might streamline your help and recommendations in the future.
Thank you. I'll go back to public comment. Seeing none. So we need to take a vote on this, is that correct?
Yes.
And I urge you to vote for the whole list. It's not long. And then let TPW figure it out.
Is there a motion?
Can I move? This is mine. I would move that the whole list is adopted by the SMAC, please.
Can I amend that? Can we ask a question about roads that may have been damaged as a result of other paving? Just ask the question. I don't know if that needs to be a part of the motion, if that question can be asked in another way.
Well, you probably don't need to include that as a motion, but I think Karina and I have taken note of it. And we'll have the roads crew go out there and look, especially at your road, Celeste. And I know that we've had a continuing concern expressed on Pine Street. So I suspect that Pine Street will be part of the list, as well as, what is it, North Side, that's parallel to Pine, to make sure that we capture both of those roads in the repaving plan.
Thank you.
I'd say North Side looks a little worse than Pine, actually, at least for its stretch. Yeah, and also really where water settles, as Celeste said, the big puddles, that's part of the problem on Vallejo. It's a low spot. The spot that Hannah cited, I'm sure we all could point out one of those.
So what you should do is note that, send that to us in an email, approximately where the low spots are and how deteriorated it is. And I'm not sure what they could do about the drainage, but that's part of the problem all over the county, is we don't have adequate drainage. But send us to that and we'll have the roads crew look at that.
TPW might need a citizens advisory commission. So I want to go back to Iris's motion to approve the list in its entirety. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Jesus, Iris and Jesus. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Yay, thank you all for that work. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to our next item, which is Creative Sonoma. I think we have Kristen Madsen, Director of Creative Sonoma here. Creative Sonoma seeks feedback from the MACs about emerging plans for public art plan for the county. Okay, so Kristen.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
That's great. I missed the very end of how you introduced me, so I will just say I am Kristen Madsen. I am the Director of Creative Sonoma, which is the county's agency to support and advance the creative and arts community of Sonoma County. And thank you very much for letting me join your meeting. I will also say I am quite cognizant of the time, and so I am going to try to compress what I am giving to you, and we will consider it both an introduction to this concept and an invitation that for anybody who would like to talk to me further about this, I'm sure Karina has my information and can get it to you, and I would welcome the opportunity to talk further about it. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, hopefully I can get to the right one, two. Here we go. Is that working? Great. Okay, so I just want to quickly say, I think I came to the right meeting today because you started with a poem And so I really want to thank you for that opening, and it makes me feel right at home, and I'm delighted to be here. So Creative Sonoma is currently working with Supervisor Gorin and Supervisor Rabbit on developing a new program to support public art across the county. And public art can mean many things, but for our conversation today, we're talking essentially about a program that brings art of all kinds into the public realm. Usually, not always, but usually it's associated with new building and development projects. And I got to say that in tonight's meeting alone that you're having here, I heard a couple of projects discussed that if we had an actual public art program in place, art could be and or will be incorporated into those projects. And so I'll point those out as we go through this presentation. I'm starting this from the premise that I believe, which is that more art in our public realm is a net positive. And there's lots of studies that show its positive impacts, but I know everyone does not agree with that. And again, I will be welcoming of anybody's comments about any of this if there's time at the end or as we move forward in our conversations down the road. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time giving you some examples of how the program that we are beginning to shape and that we will be bringing to the supervisors to vote on for us, how it could work, what it could look like, a couple of ideas of how it might get paid for. And then I want you all to help us. You're our first test drive with general public, with people who do not think about art all day long every day, to tell us what you think about it, any impressions you have, what makes you nervous. Help us make this a better proposal and hopefully then a better program for going forward. To compress for time, I'm going to go very quickly through the values that we heard in our interviews around the county that people have for Sonoma County that will fuel this conversation. So we value our land, obviously, our history, our creative practices, our diversity, our resilience, and our hunger for connection. So those are kind of the underpinnings of this whole program. When we get to what we want to do and how we want to do it, the first question is, who will help us do this work? And as you heard today, there's a lot of people that are already in the business of doing infrastructure kinds of projects and building projects. So our first place to look will be our sister departments in county government. And in particular, those things that they are doing that are connected to the county's overall strategic plan. But we'll also want to cultivate partnerships with other county-wide agencies that exist. Also mentioned today, smart trains, libraries, et cetera. And then, of course, other nonprofits that are doing this sort of work. And all of that hopefully will end up supporting our artists and cultural working community. So now I want to just show you a couple of examples of what this might look at like, and think about it in context of the conversation, again, as I say, that you had in this meeting, like about the new government center that Supervisor Gorin talked about that hopefully in our lifetimes will be built. That's going to be a huge capital improvement project. If we had a public art program, art could easily be incorporated, should be incorporated into that new facility. Bridges, we have a lot of them in Sonoma County. 15 are in the pipeline right now for construction or renovation. There are going to be budgets set aside to do that. Those could easily have art incorporated into those structures. We have a lot of regional parks. The idea of bringing together the intersection of how art and the environment coexist and complement each other could be really delightful as the Parks Department looks at its upgrades and its improvements and through its planning processes. This is one that's a little out of the box, but thinking about some of our other sister agencies that work with the public and could use artists in not necessarily permanent projects, but projects that try to help advance what those missions are of groups like the Office of Equity or our Health Services Department. This is an actual campaign that was done in Sonoma County to help get into traditionally underserved communities to talk about vaccination and protecting our elders. There were videos made, there were posters, postcards. Those kinds of projects might be something we would consider, as I say, a little bit of an outside of the box, thinking about how we could think about public art. Water towers, which again, we have an awful lot of, all of which are destined to be repainted in the coming years. And this might be a little bit of a garish example of what you might want to put on a water tower, particularly those that are in places like Taylor Mountain or in Spring Lake. But the idea that having an artist help think about, well, what color even are you going to paint the water towers? Is not an expensive proposition, but it makes us more artful in our infrastructure. So I think you're getting the idea. I'm going to show one more because you brought up the idea of bike racks, which I think are fantastic, but all that entire conversation that you were having with Brian and transportation, whether it's bus shelters or bike racks or even the seats, engaging an artist in the planning of that, maybe not for all of them, but for some of them, gives us, again, a little bit of an elevation of how we can lay claim to being the artful community that I think we all want to be. So I think you're catching the spirit of what I'm talking about here. You can look at the other examples in the PowerPoint at your leisure. So I'm going to move straight over to funding and talk about this side of it for a little bit. These are ideas that we have. Obviously, they have to get vetted by the supervisors. We've been talking already to the budget office of the county to think through this, but we're not naive. We know that there are headwinds. All of us are feeling them economically ourselves, and certainly in the county, and not knowing what the economy is going to be doing going forward. We also know that this county is just coming out of a series of emergencies and downturns where our cash reserves have been tapped. So we're not naive about that. And that's why we're trying to think about ways that this could be financed that don't hurt too much and that don't get looked at as being competitive to other issues. Also, we know that for a public art program in Sonoma County, as I think Brian mentioned, we all recognize this county is really big. And so making an impact in this county is a little hard to do. That said, this county doesn't do a lot of big capital expenditure projects. You know, the government center is going to be a notable exception, but that will be a bit of an outlier. So that means that a traditional public art program that ties its revenues solely to its own individual capital projects like the government center will probably not generate a lot of revenues and wouldn't necessarily serve too much of the general public. I'll harken back to what Supervisor Gorin said to you all about what all would you like in the Sonoma branch of what the government center is. If we're just focused on a few individual projects and the artwork all being cited at those sites, that doesn't really serve the whole community too well. So we're trying to be flexible in thinking about where that money comes from and where the art goes as we do this. So those are our sort of some of our specific Sonoma issues. And I think it will push us to lean toward a combination of those kinds of funds. So we'll probably be looking at some kind of something that says for major projects that are building projects in the county, we do want 1% for art set aside so that art is incorporated into those projects. And then beyond that, we might look at something like a much smaller percent of the annual capital improvement budget over the course of, you know, a 5-year rolling history to see what's normally been spent. What if we took a third of a cent, or what am I saying? Not 1%, 1% or 0.5% or 2%, something like that. There are other ideas along those lines, but those are probably the two that seem to have the most traction right now. And then there finally is the potential that this kind of a program, I've talked about it in connection only with public construction. There are municipalities in our county that also apply this kind of a program to private construction, where the developer then pays a percentage fee on the development for artwork that is part of that project. Or there are other ways to sort of spend out that money. So those are the kind of areas that we're looking at in terms of how we might finance this. And then last, I just wanted to touch on, I think the lessons that we have learned, certainly through what we've watched as these kinds of programs have existed in other communities here in Sonoma County, and also from just hard knocks experiences, that there's a couple of critical issues, which is it's got to have plenty of transparency in the way the process is put together, plenty of community engagement and from all of the community stakeholders that are involved in it, and that we have to all be humble about this kind of a process, willing to learn, to listen and learn through the process of any individual art project that we might be putting together in our county, to make sure that we're doing this in a way that makes sense to the people who are living nearest and closest to it every day. That felt like a really quick and dirty on what we're trying to think about. So I'm sure I missed a lot of context and missed some other examples, but I wanted to try to move us through this relatively quickly and just get to the point to say if there's anything that Sorry, I'm looking while I talk to stop sharing the screen. So let me do that. Where is that? There we go. Would love to hear any immediate questions or any feedback, or see any of you that are interested in talking to us further about it, to help us have some feedback as we're putting this plan together.
Thank you so much. And I just want to clarify something. So, right, you're just providing us with information about what you all are thinking about in the direction of Creative Sonoma. You're not, your request is if we're interested to reach out to you and have further conversation. Is that correct?
I think that's right for now. I think we we will have a formal plan that we will put up on our website, and would love to get actual feedback from all of you at that point.
Okay. And I just want to say thank you. I firmly believe in public art. Where I was the elementary school principal, that's all we did, is we worked on public art projects. It changed the entire landscape of the school. I mean, there's communities everywhere. Santa Fe is a perfect example of public art at its finest. So really appreciate the work that you all are doing and you're thinking about this. So I'm absolutely willing to help, so you can sign me up.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm wondering if there are any comments or questions from the council.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for bringing that. And, you know, in the Springs, one of the things that makes us sort of stand out from the rest of the valley is we are an incredibly vibrant and very colorful stretch of the valley, and we like it. And we'll fight for it. And we love color because it just really represents our community and the people in our community. We are a colorful group over here. And so I love the idea. I think the more public art, the better. The Springs is probably one of the best places for that because we embrace it so wholeheartedly over here. I mean, we're the neighborhood with the giant chicken. So
exactly.
I have a t-shirt with that chicken on it, by the way. So, but I want to thank you. And we have some amazing artists in our community. We have we are so lucky in the Springs. We have probably some of the most phenomenal artists I've ever met that happen to live here and create here. And we just are very lucky. And so thank you for doing this, and thank you for making yourself available, because we can't get enough of it in the Springs.
That's just two quick things about that. I thought your comment about color, when I saw those white bike racks, and I was glad to hear Brian say they can be painted. I was like, okay, at the least, yes, exactly right. And two, Celeste, I'm going to get your contact information. We are always looking for ways to reach artists that don't know about us, that we can help fund and get them to apply to our programs. So I will reach out to you if you don't mind to just pick your brain on who those people might be.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you.
Great. Yep.
Are there any other questions? Iris?
Yeah. Thank you. I really liked the presentation. It sounds wonderful. And to see more of what you're planning. I love bringing more color into the environment because it's energizing. Also, I would say that it's good for especially children, but also older people who are people throughout the age population who don't think they're creative. They can look at that and think, oh, maybe I could do something like that. Thank you.
Really good comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? All
Just a quick comment. Thank you, Kristen, so much for being with us tonight and for all that you do. And poor Kristen, every time she sends out an RFP and she announces the award winners, they say, so what artists from Sonoma Valley have been awarded? And so anything that we could do to spread the word out to the artists and to get more of our Sonoma Valley artists funded, the better off we will be. And Kristen can breathe the sigh of relief. I won't be bugging her.
No, I welcome it. We would love it. Yeah, more is better.
All right, we'll move to public comment.
No raised hands.
Okay, seeing none. So Kristen, I invite you to come back as you get further along in this project. We'd love to hear more and be able to provide you with some more feedback and just hear about how it's going. So thank you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. By the way, you were my first outward presentation, so thank you for giving me the soft landing.
Well, it was great. And your slides are perfect.
Oh, good.
Pictures
Good.
with very few words.
Right?
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Bye. All right. We are going on to community projects. So let me give you a little update on here. The council suggested and voted on sponsorship of community projects, Dia de los Muertos, the holiday lighting, and a possible picnic in the spring. I don't think we're going to be able to pull it off in the fall. We delegated members for budget requests. Jesus would like to bring forward a second community project, an altar sponsorship in the Springs Garden Dia de los Muertos event, and asking other council members for their recommendations. We do need to have budget forms filled out. I think I just signed off on one recently for, I can't remember what it was now off the top of my head, but we do need those so that we can get budget allocated. So Jesus, would you like to talk about the project that you're considering, that you want the council to consider?
Well, during the Larson Creek cleanup, I was talking with Seth Dolinsky. He is in charge of the Sonoma, the Springs Community Garden, and he was mentioned that he wanted a sponsorship from the MAC to organize Dia de los Muertos at Larson's Park. And I didn't say anything to him, but when I reached out to Artscape about sponsoring both the Springs altar next to the post office and probably the one at Larson's Park too, that was like my intention to do it, but they are only able to sponsor one. So I was wondering if we can also sponsor Seth, organize the one on Larson's, but he's mentioned that he was gonna come here and announce it, but right now I'm not sure about it because I don't know if he still wants a sponsorship. So that will be, have to follow up with him, and also the date of the date is also coming up pretty quick. So far, I've been communicating with Artscape, and they just need to coordinate, and just I think they're hiring Jesus Bravo and organize. And I met Jesus Bravo, he's my neighbor, and I'll talk to him, and I told him that I'm here to support him in anything that he will be needing. So that's what it is. But other than that, I'm in the blur. I don't know what else I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jesus, can I make a recommendation? Do you want to check with Seth? And then since we're going to have a special meeting about the other topic, which I can't remember what it is right now. But yeah, we know we have to have,
Sharon, sorry. Just real quick. My recommendation would be to ask for a motion to approve the altar project that you're suggesting, Jesus. If it doesn't happen, then your money just stays in your budget. But if it does, then it's already approved, because you won't have time until your next regular meeting. Your special meeting will be only to create the ad hoc for the plaza. Public meetings, and you can only have one item for special meetings.
Okay, got it. Thank you. All right. So how much are you considering, Jesus, for this project?
Well, I was considering 500 as well, but I do know, honestly, I don't know if that is still gonna be viable. I have a sense and feeling that Seth has everything pretty much done. Like I would have loved to, I would have loved the SMAC to sponsor him, But I also I'm aware that our budget is also limited. So honestly, I would love to sponsor him anyways, but Daryl has to be just communicating with him. Yeah, 500.
Maite?
Yes, Iris.
I did see that, I check out who's in the participant list, and I did see him there earlier. Maybe I presume he had to go for some reason. And since this is near last on the agenda, he just bailed.
Well, can I make a suggestion that we sponsor at 250, and if he uses it, he uses it, and if he doesn't, then he doesn't, and that seems like a reasonable amount of money, considering we're not exactly sure what's happening, and we do want to contribute to the efforts.
I would second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, 250 for the Larson Park altar. If he chooses not to do this, or he's well funded, then the money stays in our budget. Great. Oh, I didn't take public comment. Ruh-roh. Well, let me see if there's any. Is there any public comment?
No.
Okay, seeing none. All right, motion passes. Thank you.
I think you have to have a public to have them comment.
Yeah,
Just-
well, they were with us for a while, Iris. They
Yeah,
were
why-
with us. We're gonna get through this. I promise. Okay, we are promotional supplies. MAC members present quotes for promotional.
Chair Turi, I apologize. You didn't check with council if there were other projects that wanted to come forward.
Oh, sorry. Are there other projects that want to come forward?
Yes, I would like to request budget for Dia de los Niños. I know that it's only 6 months away, but I would like to request $1,000. I know that with the MAC sponsor 500 in the last year, and it was very helpful. As many of you at the MAC had a table, was very successful, and I think it will be more successful next year. So a minimum, if we could do, do 1,000, and if it's being used, it can be, used.
Does that come out of this budget year? What's the fiscal, is that would be this fiscal year? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just, real quick, for your council awareness, as of today, you have a little over $10,000 available to cover your ongoing expenses and community projects.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion for $1,000 for Dia de los Niños?
I make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Iris, all in favor? That was a great event. So
It was a great event.
yeah, good job. All right. So we just approved $1,250 for future community events.
Can I make a comment? I'm so good with all of that. I come from a background where I look at like all the budgets and the cost breakdown and where it all goes. So it's really hard for me, not that I don't trust it's all going there, to just blindly approve things without knowing all the cost breakdown and why we're giving what to where. I know I might be the outlier on this one and like looking at it against our budget and that kind of stuff. So I would just say if we're bringing something in the future, if we could do a little bit more of that, it would ease my mind a lot more, right? Because I come from a background of being stewards of people's money and making sure we're doing the right thing with it. Not that we're not, but I would really love to see more breakdown and understanding of where the money is going rather than just saying it's $1,000 for them. You can use it on pizza for, I just in the future, I would appreciate that.
No,
actually, I agree with you, Joe.
Yeah, I agree too.
This is something that could still be done, at least. I mean, at least for Dia de los Niños. We have 6 months, so definitely we can request from Victor and other organizers that that a projected budget be delivered, and then we can look at the actuals afterwards, you know. Thank
Yeah,
you, I agree with you.
No, I agree with you, Joe. I mean, many of us work in the public sector and we have to be good stewards of the money. And we do trust the people that we work with, but it would be good to know how they're spent.
Plus, it's good for statistics to know like how many potentially went to gifts, you know, toys for kids, how much went for publicity, et cetera, you know. I agree. Thank you.
If I may, Chair Terry, I also want to ask Joe if you were also asking for a budget breakdown of the max budget or for the organizations or projects that you're sponsoring.
Both. I know I got the max budget before. I don't know where I can regularly see where that's at, if there's a place where I can see that. So I would love that, but then also, yeah, as organizations ask for money, you know, like them coming with a budget of this is what your money is going to go towards. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do a budget update at the next meeting. We usually do. We haven't done one for a while. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. I'm going to move on to promotional supplies. Unless there's.
Sorry, Chair, I just want to, for the council's awareness and for Joe and all new council members, the way these projects work also for your awareness, when your council approves a budget, there is a budget request form that needs to be completed that indicates what the project is, how it's benefiting the community, and you're supposed to detail how that money is going to be used. So because you haven't come, you know, forward with a project request, I don't think you've experienced that. And then what happens is that form is signed by the chair, submitted to our office, and then we pay or we provide that funding through payment. We receive an invoice from the organization with a detailed, you know, this is what we purchased, whether it was marigolds for the altars or, you know, they paid talent at the Dia del Niño, however it was, we get the breakdown. So that information is available internally. And then what happens is at your next available MAC meeting, you're supposed to provide a presentation with, here's what we've sponsored, this is the amount, this is how it was used, here's the pictures of the event for future, you know, sponsorship opportunities.
Maybe we could provide those sheets to people prior to them coming to us so that they can have that filled out.
I know the
That's what I
council
was just about to say.
provided with those forms. I don't know if you're providing them to your organizations that you're working with, but I can resend them. I know I recently sent them, but I can.
Yeah, we got them recently.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe that's just becomes the practice. We give them to people and say, fill this out.
Yes, I think that makes all the sense in the world, to have that in front of us before we vote in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Good suggestion. Thank you. Okay, now can I go on to in-person promotional supplies? Thank you. Okay. I have this looming fear that I'm not going to feel good in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So I apologize if I'm rushing too much. In-person promotional supplies. MAC members present quotes for promotional supplies, discussion and vote on purchase of promotional supplies for in-person outreach. So some people were going to go out and get quotes.
Yes, I was doing research about our tablecloth. I have some on my Amazon wish list that range from $75 to $144. And it just depends on the material of the tablecloth and the quality of it, and the quality and yeah, so the prices varies according to the quality of the tablecloth. But what I am concerned right now, it's about the logo that the logo that we have. If I can share my, if I can share my screen. So can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
So this is our logo, the Springs MAC. So I'm just still asking if this is what we want, or we are supposed to create a new one, or. But this is what it's gonna go on the logo, at least on the front side of the tablecloth and on perhaps on top of it. Sorry, I'm just maybe deviating from my task, which was only to get quotes. So I should come back to the quotes.
And I'm also wondering if Springs Municipal Advisory Council needs to be spelled out, because people aren't going to know.
Yeah. That is also, that is spelled out on the sorry, on the yes, it is spelled out, but the logo itself.
I know we've had conversations about the logo. We've gone back and forth on it. And the last time we talked about it, we decided to stay with it. I don't know if this is not an agenda item, the logo debate. So if we want to bring that back for another agenda item to discuss, we can do that. Joe?
It sounds like also this may need to pause in general to maybe just get the quotes all the way down. And I'll say, I'm assuming this kind of happened at the end of the last meeting that I had to leave a little bit early. We definitely get a lot of runners and things done for Boys and Girls Club. I have no problem chatting with the team here to see if we have some different connection, or there's someone locally that will do it, and maybe we'll, do that discounted rate too. So I have no problem spending some time and joining you, Jesus, with pricing out tablecloths and whatnot. And I'd say if we're pushing it to another meeting, maybe we also talk about the logo.
So
That's yeah.
So Iris, let's put the tablecloth aside for a second. Let's hear about the banner, and then we can make a decision on whether we're going to bring. I see this heading towards another meeting. It's just looking at my crystal ball right now. Iris.
Okay, Karina, do you want to either give me a screen share or display the?
You can screen share. I did not receive the material from you on this.
Oh, you didn't? Oh dear. So how do I screen share?
Look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a green button that says share screen.
Oh, screen share. Thank you. Green, my favorite color. Okay.
And then it will populate a few different screens. If you have multiple windows open, select the one you want to share.
This is what I did for a banner to be hung above the shelter. Both, English and Spanish, and our logo. It's not real terribly exciting, but there it is. That was my concept of it. Staples apparently can do this for $75. And I did go to Pat's Copy World. I can't find the email. It was about $164. In the Pat's Copy World, it would be a heavier, probably more appropriate for outside and long-term use banner. The Staples banner is not particularly sturdy, I think, given the wind in the valley, but it's it's twice as expensive. And Staples just said flat $75. They did not give me an estimate, apparently, but I figure it might be 85. Who knows? And that was with grommets.
That's my question. Okay.
So it's sort of Jesus's conundrum of which quality do we go for?
So Karina, I need a process check with you on this. it's sounding like people want a conversation about the logo. So do we put this on pause and bring this back at another meeting? And at that point, we need to come to a decision about what we're going to do, because this has been a year-long conversation on a tablecloth.
Yeah, it's at the previous meeting, it sounded like the MAC had, or the council had decided to move forward with the logo as is so that you could get these quotes. If you're wanting to rethink the logo, then you absolutely should table this. Or at the bare minimum, you could order your tablecloth, you could order your tent, and then decide later what you want to put on these tablecloths and tents.
Yeah, I think we need to table the whole thing, is my personal opinion. I don't know if other people feel that way about it.
How many of us do not want this current logo?
I was going to ask that question, but I wasn't sure if we could actually ask that question.
Because I'm
Before
okay
we
with
go to
the
that,
current one, but I don't know.
I would just say before we go to that, we definitely could approve a tablecloth, a non-logoed tablecloth, a nice tablecloth, and get a runner later, a logoed runner. But I think it's still a tablecloth is something we should just have, and I think runners are fine. And that way too, with a runner, we could do the current logo, and if we decide to change it later, that's a much smaller cost to buy a new runner rather than a new logo tablecloth. That makes sense.
Karina?
I also want to remind you that Supervisor Gorin is very kind and has a tent, table, chairs, and tablecloth that she shares with the Springs MAC. So if you have any events coming up where you will be tabling, you can use those in the meantime until you decide what you want to do with your logo, and then find all your supplies.
Well, the good thing is we're going into the winter and we won't be tabling probably for another 6 months. So we have another 6 months to talk about this.
Let's make that 3 so we can get it done.
All right. So we're going to move. Thank you, everybody, for all your work. We're going to move this to the next agenda, but please come with ideas about this logo situation and what we're going to do, because we need to make a decision.
And I apologize. I actually didn't hear well last on our previous meeting that we had agreed upon the logo, but anyways, yes, the quotes go from $75 up to $145, let's say, and we can go for better, but it is more expensive. So since we agreed already on the budget to allocate resources to buy the promotional supplies, should we just postpone it there then until we agreed upon everything? Perhaps.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, if we've got things that we can use in the meantime too, I don't think it makes sense to spend money on something we're not all in on.
Okay. We're going to put it all on pause. And we're
Sorry, everyone.
We're going to talk about it at the November meeting, and we're going to get a decision. Okay. Thank you. Oh, we need to take public comment. Any public comment on our logo?
On our purchase of tablecloths and
Yes.
banners.
No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Ad hocs. So we have some updates, I think, from folks. I'm not sure which committees are currently active. I can do the bicycle racks. So I talked to Kate from Art Escape, and they're super excited about the project. They absolutely want to help us. It would be cost of materials for us. They would do this as a community service project. They would like the bike that we currently have delivered to them so they can do some experimenting on it, so that we can they can figure out what kind of paint and what kind of services, what the surface they'll be working on. They'd also like some ideas from us about what we want to see on that bike rack. That is where we are with the bike rack. So we absolutely have the support we need to make it happen. And then they do have other questions about how many we see happening, what themes we want on them. Exchange there, we're going to need to figure out costs and some exchange. They are willing to do the labor as community service, and they would involve the students who are who are part of Artscape.
Right, Tay?
Yes.
When I saw the fire truck in the arts discussion, I thought, oh, fire engine red for the firehouse, you know, near the firehouse. That would be great. It'd probably have a little more embellishment on it, but it seems to me it should represent the various communities in the valley, and we could reach out and talk to the various communities about what they would like to see on the bike racks. Also, in terms of placement, it occurred to me that the first ones should go along the highway at the most visible stops so that people get excited about it. I was thinking of it, Verano and 12 for one thing, and maybe Boys Food Center, or excuse me, not Boys Food Center, Fiesta Center.
They've already prioritized which ones even
okay.
the order that they should go in because of functionality and ability to place. And I think the two that they've identified as the top priority are near the movie theater in that area.
Yeah,
so those would be the first.
That's Fiesta.
Yeah, that would be the first couple that would go in. Karina, is it possible to get that? How can we get that bike rack moved? I don't know how heavy it is. I don't know what that requires. Maybe you and I can talk about that offline to figure that out.
Yeah, maybe Jesus' strong muscles can help us do it.
And then we also need a system to decide on what we want on this first one. As Iris has pointed out, it needs to be kind of spectacular because it will be our first one. And I'm wondering if maybe the Boys and Girls Club students might help us design that in some way.
Yeah, I would say, so is Kate your point of contact, or would it be Elizabeth? Kate?
It's Kate. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll reach out to her too, because I'm thinking if they're experimenting, it might be good to have one of my people experiment too to understand how it all works. And if we do it that way, then maybe, you know, a club vehicle can transport. So I'll reach out to Kate.
Thank you. And then do you see maybe perhaps the students at the club helping design what might go on the bike rack, what the design might be?
I think definitely they can help design. I also think we got lots of students that would probably love to help decorate some too. So
maybe you and I can talk about that later on, Joe, and figure out how to coordinate that. Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from council members on this particular?
No, we have the teen services with the bike shop, correct? So that would be.
Oh yeah, an OB. Writing that down. I like it.
Very exciting. Okay, I'll go to Karina.
Just real quick, since there was a comment about current ad hocs, just a reminder, and I think I did this at the last meeting or maybe the one before. Your current ad hocs are Community Voice, and that's Maite, Mari Carmen, and Iris, and that expires April of 2023. You got the road paving, which is Hannah, Mari, and Iris, and that's expiring June of 23. The bicycle rack, which is Maite and Joe, expiring July of 23. And there was an e-waste event ad hoc that was Hannah, Jesus, and Celeste, and that expires July of 23.
Okay, thank you. Are there reports on any of the other ad hocs? Mari Carmen, Iris, and I need to meet.
Yes.
Jesus.
I believe there was an ad hoc for the Day of the Dead, right? To organize or was in charge of doing that. So anyway, so I believe the form that you just signed, Maite, was the form to sponsor the Day of the altar. Springs MAC, the springs by the post offices. So that's what it is, what we are up to so far. And that's the artwork that I was in for this
So
month.
the e-waste event ad hoc turned into a street creek cleaning, and I believe that you and Hannah have an update for that on that event.
Yeah, I have a presentation I can share. I'll share my screen. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. Is it? It's not in presentation mode. Is it view? There we go. Okay. So on September 17th, we had our Larson Park Creek cleanup, and it was for Coastal Waterways Day. We don't have a coast here in the Springs, but anything that goes in the creek ends up at the coast. So that was the theme. We collected over about 30 yards of trash, which is a big dumpster that was from the creek and also from drop-offs from people in the community who had waste. We had a ton of volunteers come out. A big thank you to everyone. Seth with the garden park gave away hundreds of plant starts. I thought he said thousands, but hundreds is a safer bet. But he gave away so many fall veggies and just great things. And lots of people came and took advantage of that. And just a big thank you to all our partners who made this possible. Recology Sonoma Marin donated the trash, the giant dumpster. Sonoma Ecology Center was our fiscal sponsor. Seth with the Springs Garden, Whole Foods Market Sonoma donated food, Starbucks donated coffee. Big turnout from the Springs Rotary, so that was great. And then thank you to Sonoma County Regional Parks and Supervisor Gorin. So great event, and thank you.
Thank you, Hannah, for the presentation. Love the visual.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other committee reports? Okay. Is there any public comment on the ad hocs?
I don't know if, as part of our community voice, if we can announce that there's going to be a shakeout event at the fire department. Would that be appropriate or not?
That would be more of a community event announcement, unless the MAC is going to participate. I know you weren't here for the first part of the meeting.
That's right. Yeah, so
I think it'd be appropriate for you to make a community event announcement if Chair Turi approves.
Absolutely.
yes, I don't know if this was announced or not. I didn't, and I'm sorry I missed a big part of the meeting today. But as you know, this is Fire Preparedness Week. And also on the 20th is California Shakeout Day for earthquake preparedness. And there's going to be an event at the fire department on 2nd Street at 6 p.m. So just wanted to invite the community. Va a haber un evento, bueno, esta semana es la semana de la prevención de incendios. Y además también va a haber un evento el 20 de octubre, el jueves, a las 6 de la tarde en los bomberos de la calle Segunda, para hacer el shakeout, que es como un simulacro de terremoto. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari Carmen. Okay, are there any other comments from council members? Okay. Consideration of future agenda items. We have an ongoing list. Is that something you were going to project, Karina, or?
For your November meeting, what I have as a potential topic is you wanted to discuss mental health and invite RISC, the Sonoma Valley Mental Health Collective, behavioral health, and the superintendent of schools to present on the Sonoma Valley Unified School District SAFE grant. And for December, I have La Luz, the Sonoma Valley Education Foundation, Housing Preservation and Protections, and 4Cs, a presentation from 4Cs.
And can you add the logo discussion on the November?
And I was gonna say, what I heard from today's meeting is that you're interested in receiving presentations on your budget, logo, and bicycle rack. And I just need direction on what months you want to bring those forward.
All right, we can sort that out later. Are there anything else for consideration for the future?
Oh goodness, I think this is kind of a mixture of a project, but I don't know if there's any holiday program going on in the valley. I haven't heard anything, but if we could sponsor something, at least a little hot chocolate event at the Springs. But sorry, I'm gonna talk about it in November and propose it in November, so disregard. But
as a reminder, your council is sponsoring the holiday lighting at the Springs fence, but that's not an event. It's just something that will be up. I believe they start right before Thanksgiving and it goes through January 6th or January 4th or around that time.
Also, I believe that last meeting we did not assign somebody to help organize the plaza lining. Is that correct, Karina?
The plaza what? I'm sorry?
The plaza lining, the plaza. The MAC also, the Springs.
Maite is leading that.
Oh, okay.
According to my notes, Maite was doing that one. You were doing the Dia de Muertos, and Celeste brought forward the picnic.
Okay, thank you.
Today, your council approved the altar sponsorship at the Springs Garden, and you're leading that one, and Dia del Niño led by Mary Carmen.
So I was in there as a placeholder, was my understanding. We were going to see if somebody else was interested in helping with the lighting. I'm happy to do it, but I don't know that everybody was at the meeting. That was my recollection.
What does that entail?
Basically,
Stringing lights?
so in the past, this would be the third year that the MAC sponsors this project in partnership with Artiscape. Artiscape basically already has the supplies, and every year they'll bring wreaths or they'll add something new so that it looks better. Your council already approved it, so basically whoever will take the lead will provide the budget request form, and you can work with me to help fill that out. You get Maite's signature, you send it to us or to me, and then I work with Artiscape to get the invoice from them to get the payment. And then they usually ask for volunteers. If you're the lead on this, hopefully you're able to attend, or any of the council members who are available when they set up and when they bring down. The rest is just there. It's, once it's up, it's up.
Can I volunteer to do that, to do the sponsor request form and connect with Artscape and volunteer to set up the lining and take it down and be at the, can I do that? Or if anybody wants, and anybody else would like to be on that, or if they really want to be on that, I can also allow them to or let them do it, but I would like to do it. It's possible.
Karina, can you review who's doing what, please?
Based on Jesus's volunteer, so he will be working on the lighting of the plaza. He is also working on the Dia de los Muertos altar at the plaza. He is working on the altar sponsorship at Springs Garden. And Mari is working on Dia del Niño. Celeste is working on the picnic.
Okay. All right. Jesus, that's 3. Are you sure you got that?
Yes, I will be happy to do it, but like I said, if
No, I think
if somebody wants to take, like, I'd like to do it, but if someone wants to,
you're good.
they can do it. Thank you.
But just know that we're here to help you if you need help. So just, you got to reach out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well,
That's important. So say, I need help, and tag somebody in to help you out.
okay.
Okay. All right. So let me go back to the agenda. Again, I'm sorry, I'm working off my screen and not the way I normally work here. Okay. So keep in mind that we're going to have a meeting here to put an ad hoc together. So be on the lookout for that. Karina and I will look for a date. We're also going to have a special meeting. Our regular meeting's on the 9th of November. We also have a special meeting on the 30th where we're invited to attend, which will be the Kenwood Ranch topic. Then again, our December meeting is the 14th. So unless there's any other comment or public comment, I'm going to move to adjournment, but I see a hand. Karina?
Yes, Chair Terry. Just quick note on the November 30th special meeting. It's not confirmed yet, but if it does happen, there might be 2 topics, which is the housing element and the Kenwood Ranch. So just FYI. And yes, I will work with Chair Terry on a date for the special meeting to create an ad hoc for the Springs Plaza public meetings.
Okay, thank you. So I want to say thank you to KSVY for broadcasting and their technical support, of Lynn Marie for taking great notes, Juan, our interpreter, Karina, Supervisor Gorin, and all the council members. We have really good meetings, you guys. We really do. We have really robust, we do a lot of stuff. So I just want you to recognize that we do get a lot of stuff accomplished in this small but mighty group. And sometimes the meetings seem long, but there is a lot that we are doing to serve our community. So we appreciate it. All right. Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Second.
Okay. I think that's Iris and Joe. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Okay.
Bye.
Everyone. Have a beautiful night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye.